In the center of Florida, just outside the town of Sebring, a piece of motor racing history sits proud. Constantly evolving and yet maintaining its aged character, this airfield-based venue remains a challenge for driver and machine alike. This is Sebring International Raceway. Layout-wise, Sebring is shorter and much twistier than it once was, with sharp turns and abrasive curbs, but cars still reach high speeds. Much of the racing surface is left on purpose to preserve the track's bumpy nature that dates back to its original form as a US Air Force base. A patchwork mixture of concrete and asphalt, the former runways and access roads that are now racetrack represent a major workout for vehicle suspension, and it's not unusual to see steering wheels jostling around as drivers make their way around the long lap. Sebring began life as US Army Airfield Hendricks, where during World War II, pilots were trained in flying the B-17 Flying Fortress. After the end of the war, Hendricks fell out of use and was turned over to the town. Racing drivers Sam Collier and Bob Gagan were the first to see the potential for racing at this location as they flew overhead in 1949 and approached the airfield to raise the possibility of holding a race on the runways. Unfortunately, Collier was killed at Watkins Glen in 1950, and the idea almost fell through. Alec Ullman, an aeronautical engineer and fellow racer, was the one to bring Collier and Gagan's dream to reality. He initially looked at the airfield as a site for restoring military aircraft for civilian use, but his plans quickly changed when he saw potential for a Le Mans-style circuit and race. By the end of 1950, Ullman had everything in order, and Sebring's first race, the Sam Collier Memorial 6-Hour, was held on New Year's Eve. This is the layout that was used. Very different from the Sebring we know, to say the least. By 1952, the first 12 hours of Sebring was run, on a new course that would become the classic Sebring layout. The race and the track's stature would grow to an international level in years to come. In 1959, the track gained the honor of being the first venue to host the Formula One United States Grand Prix. Jack Brabham won his first title here, literally pushing his car across the finish line to do so. The track's next layout change was a result of many fatalities during the 1966 event. A driver and 4 spectators, including a 9-year-old boy, were killed, and others injured in 2 separate incidents during the race. After almost losing the 12-hour to fellow Florida track Palm Beach, the back straight at Sebring was rerouted to bypass the old airfield buildings. Despite these safety upgrades and more, Sebring was still a primitive circuit. There are many stories from the early years of drivers getting disoriented in the night and having to retire simply because they got lost on the runways and access roads and couldn't find their way back to the track. The airport Sebring originates from has remained operational all this time, and starting in the 1980s, an effort was made to separate the track from the airport to accommodate growing air traffic. Eventually, the track was removed from the main runways entirely in 1987, becoming a permanent circuit and starting to resemble the track as it is today for the first time. Finally, during the 1990s, new sections were progressively added, making the track twistier. Sebring's last major modification to date was moving the hairpin back and turning it into something of a chicane. With that, the track is now as we recognize it today. Sebring is one of the oldest continuously operating racetracks in the United States and is a very popular road racing venue. The scene of many incredible races in the V8 Supercars on iRacing, it shows no signs of slowing down, be it real or sim racing. Buckle up.